Thank you, Paolo, and thank you all for being here. Indeed, my name is Robin Kenselaar. I'm the Senior Vice President for Therapeutics in the EMEA region. Before we get started, just a brief note that throughout this presentation I will be making forward-looking statements which are outlined on this slide and can also be found in our latest SEC filings. So at Therapeutics, our vision is to end the devastation caused by genetic and other severe diseases. We aim to do this by discovering, developing, and commercializing new treatments that tap into the curative potential of hematopoietic stem cells, HSC gene therapy. Highlighted in this slide is a family that has experienced the curative potential of HSC gene therapy firsthand. Their eldest daughter, Connie, can be seen on the left-hand side of this slide, laying on a stretcher. Was diagnosed with a rare neurometabolic genetic disease called MLD. Unfortunately, she was already too progressed at the time of diagnosis to be eligible for treatment with HSC gene therapy. But because of her diagnosis, her siblings could be tested. And you see her brother Joe here on the slide as well, was also diagnosed with MLD, but before onset of symptoms. Subsequently, Joe was able to enroll in one of our studies in Milan and was treated. And currently, he lives a normal life and attends school. His sister Connie unfortunately passed away last year. So this picture really tells the story of the curative potential of HSC gene therapy. Our platform is utilizing the person's own hematopoietic stem cells, which are responsible for lifelong sustained production of all blood cells and have three characteristics that make them uniquely suitable for this personalized gene therapy approach. First, they are capable of self-renewal, and that gives rise to the durable effect and what we believe potentially a lifelong effect of the treatment. Secondly, they differentiate into different multiple cells in the bloodstream. And third, these cells can migrate into the different tissues and organs like the brain and the lungs to allow for broad and localized distribution of the therapeutic enzyme. And we believe by expanding this approach, we can address a number of diseases. We, of course, have started with MLD, which is currently an approved therapy in Europe, Libmeldy, but we believe that this will have a much broader application. As shown here in our pipeline, by the way, where you can see the different areas that we're focused on. Currently, we have treated over 170 patients with the HSC gene therapy, and we have over 10 years of follow-up from the earliest treated patients. Today, we are advancing that pipeline, spanning preclinical, clinical, and commercial stage HSC gene therapies to address these diseases where the burden for patients, families, and society is immense. Just taking a quick look and diving deeper into the neurometabolic part of our pipeline. I talked about Libmeldy, also known as OTL-200, which was approved by the European Commission, and it addresses this disease called MLD. It's a rare, life-threatening inherited disease of the body's metabolic system, and it touches approximately 1 in 100,000 live births, or at least that's what the literature suggests. It's caused by a mutation in the ARSA gene that results in an accumulation of sulfatides in the brain and other areas of the body. Over time, the nervous system gets damaged, and it leads to neurological, motor, and cognitive problems. Patients with MLD gradually lose their ability to walk, to talk, to interact with the world around them. And in its most severe and most common form, the children die within the first 5 years of life. We're currently building a momentum with Libmeldy. I talked about it being approved in Europe. We're actually currently generating revenues. We have generated revenues last year already in Europe. we're preparing for a potential approval and launch in the US. And then we're also looking at expanding to the rest of the world as we speak. Just diving a little bit deeper in what's happening in Europe, we have actually secured reimbursed access for this therapy in a number of key markets, starting in the UK, Germany, Italy, and most recently we announced the progress that we've made through the FINOS consortium, which is a consortium of Nordic countries working together doing the HTA and price negotiations. So we have also reached a conclusion there, and we have a reimbursement agreement in Sweden, which actually is where our QTC is. We have a number of QTCs in Europe, in Italy, in Germany, in France, in the UK, in the Netherlands, and in Sweden, and hopefully soon also one in Spain here in Barcelona. We're in parallel, we're also working to have a QTC in the Middle East that is foreseen in Saudi Arabia. This morning in the panel, I think Chris from Novartis touched on the importance of optimizing the diagnostic pathway. This is also very key to what we do. I believe that unlocking the full potential of gene therapy requires us to find these patients in time. And to that end, we have launched a number of pilot studies in Europe. Currently, there are 6 studies actively screening, and we are planning to launch a number of studies both in the Middle East as well as in Europe, as well as in the US, in anticipation of an approval in the US as well. To date, we have screened over 100,000 live births, and we have identified 3 cases of MLD through these pilots. Now that, of course, if you can do the math, is slightly higher than the 1 in 100,000 that I mentioned before, but of course this is all statistics, and we'll need a lot more information to really establish what the incidence will be in the long run. All of this work is, of course, done to prepare the case for inclusion of MLD in the national newborn screening panels that we have throughout Europe. Now, obviously, we're very excited about this progress that we've made with Libmeldy for MLD in Europe. We're looking to repeat that success in the US, hopefully soon. And it also allows us to build a platform that can be leveraged to address these other metabolic diseases that we have in our pipeline. I talked about our pipeline in the previous slide. We have a program for MPS I, Hurler syndrome. We have a program for MPS III. All of these can leverage the work that we have done for MLD with Libmeldy, especially since they are these kids are looked after by the same specialists, the same centers. So we're calling on the same doctors and the same specialists throughout Europe. Just a quick word on the MPS programs that we have. We have a proof of concept study for MPS I, Hurler syndrome, where a picture always tells more than 1,000 words, they say. You see on the top there the boys that were diagnosed. You see the typical features of a Hurler patient, the curved spine, the crooked fingers, coarse features, the skeletal deformation. And 1.5 years after gene therapy, you can see already quite a remarkable effect. So based on this proof of concept study, we're looking to launch a pivotal trial in the second half of this year in MPS I. Similar for MPS III, although it's a little bit earlier. There we have MPS IIIA, I should say, Sanfilippo syndrome. Early clinical findings, including the first neurocognitive results from our ongoing proof of concept, were presented at ASH last year. And while these early results are very encouraging, longer follow-up will be needed, as the majority of the patients in this study haven't reached the age where the most severe stages of disease progression would typically manifest. So we're working with all the stakeholders to continue this program, and hopefully we'll see the results that we have seen in the other metabolic diseases that we have been focused on. Now, as a company, we've really used this first beachhead in the neurometabolic rare diseases to establish the model and to show that it can be done. It can be done from a technical perspective, a regulatory perspective, but also from a market access perspective, which is a key hurdle that only few companies have cleared until now. But we do believe that there might be broader application for this platform. We're partnering a number of our programs. One of the programs for HAE, we're partnering with Pharming. We are also developing a program for FTD, for Crohn's disease, which obviously are all indications, all diseases that are much bigger, much larger than the very rare neurometabolic diseases that I talked about before. Just in conclusion, we're currently executing the potential regulatory and clinical and commercial milestones. We have Libmeldy commercially available in Europe. We're preparing for a potential approval in the US, and we're working on the regulatory milestones for these other programs that I just showed. And then in the preclinical setting, we're looking at these larger indications, FTD, Crohn's disease, and also multiple sclerosis, which are, of course are much, much larger indications. So we think we are well positioned to become a breakout leader in gene therapy. So I hope to be back next year in Rome and report on more progress. I'll be around for the next few days, so please come up and with any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.